No, we're not here for that. We're here to take a deposition, and that requires you to not be on your phone.
All right, go ahead.
You said you wanted the party to die. Was that a metaphor? Or were you being serious?
I said it's a good song.
No, I understand you think it's a good song, but it's not answering my question. Were you being metaphorical, or should it be taken as a threat?
Whatever you want to take it.
The record reflect on.
Yo, the rap game just witnessed a nuclear moment, and if you missed Kendrick Lamar's GNX tour with SZA, you might have missed the biggest cultural shift in years. This wasn't just a concert, it was a live takedown, a stage play, a movie, and a diss track all rolled into one. Fans thought they were coming to hear hits, but what they got was Kendrick throwing shade at Drake in ways nobody saw coming. We're talking courtroom skits mocking his lawsuits, lyric flips designed to sting, and visuals so coded that fans are still decoding them like hieroglyphics. And the wildest part, Drake didn't even have to be in the building. He was the punchline all night long. While he's out here battling lawsuits, canceling shows, and trying to control the narrative, Kendrick is performing in front of sold-out stadiums, clowning him on the biggest stage possible. This wasn't just music, it was domination. Stick around because we're about to break down how Kendrick turned one tour stop into the ultimate humiliation for Drake. Kendrick Lamar came back on the scene with a show that felt more like a cultural reset than just a concert, and fans couldn't stop talking about it. This GNX tour wasn't only about the music, it was about the drama, the energy, the symbols, and yes, the endless shade thrown at Drake. From the very first moment Kendrick stepped on that PlayStation-inspired stage, people knew they weren't just watching another rapper perform, they were witnessing a man rewriting the rules of hip-hop shows. The crowd went crazy when they saw the stage design, laid out with the PlayStation buttons, the triangle, circle, square, and of course the massive G and X sitting right in the middle, replacing the missing X. That alone showed Kendrick knew exactly what he was doing, tying the visuals into his Super Bowl halftime show stage and creating continuity that made fans feel like they were part of an ongoing story. Unlike other artists who just perform their set list and walk off, Kendrick built a world with his show, and every prop, skit, and chain carried some kind of meaning. And speaking of meaning, let's talk about that merch. Fans were hyped, but also side-eyeing the crazy prices. Shirts going for $55 in the US, which felt like $8 grand in Canadian money. Kendrick's merch wasn't weak, but it didn't blow everyone away either. People actually thought the Super Bowl collection looked better. But one shirt really stood out, the whacked up murals design. That one had fans saying it was the only piece worth dropping real cash on. Kendrick knew people would talk about the prices though. That's part of the game, keeping your name buzzing whether it's positive or negative. At the same time, it shows how far hip-hop has come. Back in the day, folks remember grabbing concert tees for $25. Now inflation hit the culture heavy, and you're paying double just to wear your favorite artist's logo. But even with the prices, the merch table stayed busy, and that's proof Kendrick's brand is bulletproof. Fans will still line up because the music and the message mean more than the money. But the merch was just a warm-up. Once the lights dropped and the music kicked in, Kendrick and Sia delivered one of the wildest set lists anyone's seen in years, 51 songs between the two of them. That's not a mistake or an exaggeration. They weren't just doing solo sets back to back, they actually intertwined their music, jumping in and out of each other's songs, making it feel like a full collab tour instead of just two artists sharing a stage. Kendrick started with whacked up murals and Squabble Up, sliding right into classics like King Kunta and Backseat Freestyle. Then SZA stepped in with Love Galore and Broken Clocks before the two linked up for All the Stars in Love. The chemistry was undeniable. Fans who thought these two had different fan bases quickly realized the pairing was perfect. SZA's vocals added a softness and range to Kendrick's gritty delivery, while his energy gave her songs a whole new edge. By the time they performed unreleased material, the stadium felt like it was about to collapse from the hype. And of course, Kendrick didn't waste the moment to take shots at Drake. That's what really made this concert feel like history in the making. Every lyric change, every skit, every subtle move on stage had layers of shade baked into it. On Euphoria, Kendrick replaced his bar with "It's there, I'm further," basically saying the battle already happened, and he's not just ahead, he's on a whole different level. On Whacked Up Murals, he flipped his line about Lil Wayne, saying, "Old work let Wayne down," showing he's always speaking from the present moment and keeping his verses sharp with fresh meaning. Kendrick's message was clear. He's not stuck in the past. He's evolving every show, every bar, every performance. And just to add more gasoline, he laced the set with skits mocking Drake's lawsuits. In one skit styled like a courtroom deposition, Kendrick gets asked if he's threatening to let the party die, and he smirks like it's all a joke. That's a direct jab at Drake suing UMG over Not Like Us, trying to dig into Kendrick's contracts and label deals. The crowd ate it up because everyone knew what was happening. Kendrick was clowning Drake in front of the entire stadium without ever needing to say his name. Now let's talk about the energy in that stadium. It was unreal. Kendrick and SZA weren't just singing, they were putting on a full-scale production that felt more like theater mixed with a rap battle. The visuals were insane, giant screens flashing cryptic phrases, PlayStation symbols flying into the air, and props coming alive while the music shook the arena. Kendrick knows how to make a moment bigger than just the bars. He turns every lyric into a picture. When he performed Euphoria, the words, "Don't tell no lies about me, I won't tell truths about you," lit up behind him, making the whole arena feel like it was part of the beef. Then he flipped it again at the end of the song, changing his line to, "It's there, I'm further." That wasn't just petty, that was surgical. Basically telling Drake that he's not even competing anymore, he's already miles ahead. Fans lost their minds because that's the kind of flex only Kendrick can pull off. Subtle, smart, and devastating all at once. And Kendrick wasn't the only one shining. SZA brought her own fire to the stage, balancing out the heavy bars with raw vocals that hit deep. Songs like Broken Clocks and Love Galore had the whole crowd swaying, but what made it special was how Kendrick kept weaving himself back in. This wasn't two separate shows, it was one long story being told together. At one point, they did All the Stars and the entire stadium sang the chorus so loud it drowned out the speakers. Then there were moments where SZA was harmonizing over Kendrick's verses, turning his raw cuts into something new. That chemistry wasn't just for show. It proved that hip-hop and R&B can fuse in ways that elevate both sides. People who thought their styles didn't match were dead wrong after watching them run the stage like a tag team. And just when you thought it couldn't get more unpredictable, Kendrick started pulling out unreleased music and remixing old tracks with new instrumentals. He mashed up Mad City with Anita Baker's Sweet Love, flipping one of his hardest cuts into something soulful but still aggressive. He did Count Me Out over Don't Kill My Vibe, blending two eras of his sound into one performance. Fans were speechless because he wasn't just running through hits, he was reinventing them in real time. And then there was the unreleased joint, fans called it Bodies or Tiramisu, where Kendrick dropped lines about sweeping up the competition and laughing at the whole top 5 debate. That one line, "Remember when you argued who's number 1 and 2? You brought him to me, I brought out the broom," so was cold. He didn't have to say Drake's name. Everyone in the building knew who he was talking about. That's the thing about Kendrick. He speaks in riddles, but the message is always clear to the culture. But maybe the most talked about parts of the show weren't even the songs, it was the skits. Kendrick made the whole thing feel like a courtroom, clowning Drake's lawsuits by acting out depositions in between songs. In one, the lawyer asked if Kendrick's lyrics are threats, and Kendrick just smirks before launching into Squabble Up. In another, they set him up to look guilty for dropping Not Like Us, mocking how Drake accused him of inciting hate and using bots. The crowd was eating it up because these weren't just jokes. They were real-life events being flipped into live entertainment. Kendrick was taking Drake's lawsuits, his legal losses, and his paranoia, and turning them into stand-up comedy with a beat. The brilliance here is that he never said Drake's name directly, but every fan in the building knew exactly who the target was. It was like Kendrick was saying, "You can sue, you can cry, you can throw lawyers at me, but I'm still gonna turn your moves into my art." Meanwhile, Drake's legal battles with UMG kept making him look worse. The lawsuits claimed Kendrick faked streams, but when UMG fired back, they basically said Drake was wasting time and money on foolish theatrics with no chance of winning. That statement, "Be careful what you wish for," hit hard because it meant if Drake kept pushing, he might end up exposing himself under oath. Fans were clowning him, calling the case desperate, while Kendrick mocked it right on stage with his deposition skits. The timing was perfect. While Drake was in the headlines for failed lawsuits and canceled shows, Kendrick was on stage performing to sold-out stadiums, clowning his rival in front of tens of thousands every night. That contrast couldn't be ignored. One artist was stuck in the courtroom while the other was controlling the culture. And Kendrick didn't stop with the lawsuits. He added another layer of shade with his chains. At the Super Bowl, he wore a chain with a lowercase a, tying it to PG Lang's logo, but also referencing musical notes like a minor. DJ Mustard popped out with an M chain, completing the symbolism. On the GNX tour, Kendrick switched it up. Now he was rocking an X chain while performing Peekaboo. Fans instantly connected the dots, saying the X could stand for GNX excellence, or even Tentacion, who had a long, complicated history with Drake. Remember when X accused Drake of stealing his flow and even hinted Drake had something to do with his death? That's why when Kendrick stood on the GNX stage wearing an X chain while performing Peekaboo, people knew it was more than just fashion. It was a layered message. Kendrick knows the whispers, he knows the conspiracy theories, and he's not afraid to lean into them. That's what makes his shows feel like puzzles. Every move sparks debate, every detail could mean something. Fans walked out debating if Kendrick was just playing with symbols or dropping coded shots at Drake's darkest allegations. Either way, the fact that people are still arguing about it proves how deep he's playing this game. By this point in the concert, everyone knew Kendrick wasn't just putting on a show, he was sending a message. The set list kept the energy sky high, but the details in his performance proved how strategic he really is. When he ran through songs like Family Ties and premiered a brand new verse on that first beat, fans were stunned. That beat had always sounded tailor-made for Kendrick, and when he finally hopped on it live, it felt like a long-awaited payoff. He used that verse to show not only that he could still body any track, but also that he had new heat tucked away whenever he wanted to drop it. The whole point was clear. While Drake is stuck chasing hits and leaning on old formulas, Kendrick is evolving, experimenting, and staying unpredictable. That unpredictability is what keeps him ahead. Fans know that when they see Kendrick live, they're not just going to hear the same album tracks they played in their car. They're going to get remixes, unreleased joints, and one-of-a-kind moments. That's why people pay the big ticket prices. They're not just buying a seat, they're buying history. And let's not forget the role SZA played in all this. Her presence gave the show balance, and at times it even softened the sharp edges of Kendrick's battle-heavy energy. Tracks like Gloria, Luther, and 30 for 30 blended their styles so well it almost felt like they had a joint album ready to drop. The visuals matched their chemistry. Too, one moment they're standing in front of neon-lit gas station props for a skit. The next, they're floating above the crowd while PlayStation buttons rise up like holograms. SZA wasn't just a feature, she was essential to the story. Even fans who came strictly for Kendrick had to admit she brought a layer of magic that made the night unforgettable. And when the two performed Love together, the stadium shook like it was the anthem of the night. It was proof that this wasn't just a rap concert, it was a full-blown experience. But let's circle back to the skits because those deserve their own spotlight. The funniest and most genius one came before Not Like Us. They played it out like Kendrick was on trial for inciting violence with his lyrics. A fake lawyer questioned him, asking if lines like "wop wop wop F him up" were encouraging chaos. Kendrick sat there calm, cool, smirking at the accusations before jumping into the track. The crowd went absolutely crazy because it was the perfect flip on reality. Drake literally accused Kendrick of using bots and stirring hate, and here was Kendrick clowning that entire idea in front of thousands. And when he rapped every single word of Not Like Us without hesitation, no censor, no pauses, it hit harder than ever. He wasn't just performing, he was doubling down on the diss, proving that he wasn't scared of lawsuits, headlines, or industry politics. To fans, that was legendary. It showed Kendrick's confidence and dominance in a way words alone couldn't capture. What really made this whole concert special was how Kendrick layered history into it. For example, people caught the callback to Lil Wayne's famous deposition back in 2012. In that deposition, Wayne kept repeating, "I don't recall," to every question, clearly mocking the lawyers. Kendrick's courtroom skits echoed that energy perfectly, sarcastic, dismissive, refusing to give his lawyers anything real. And just days before the tour kicked off, Lil Wayne did a Rolling Stone interview where he admitted he didn't even realize Not Like Us was a Kendrick diss at Drake. He literally sang it at a show without knowing what it was. That made Kendrick's skit even funnier because it showed how clueless some industry vets are while Kendrick is razor focused. Fans caught the layers right away, and the laughter spread across social media as clips went viral. Kendrick was building a show that wasn't just fun in the moment, it was designed to create conversations for weeks after. Another small detail with a huge impact was the way Kendrick used jewelry and stage symbols to keep fans guessing. The X chain during Peekaboo wasn't just a flex, It tied into the stage design, the GNX branding, and potentially the legacy of X666 Fans couldn't stop debating what it meant. Was Kendrick hinting at the conspiracy theories linking Drake to X? Was it just a symbol for the GNX era? Or was it both, designed to keep people talking? That's the beauty of Kendrick. He knows the culture thrives on speculation, so he leaves little breadcrumbs that fans can argue about. Meanwhile, Drake can't even control his own narrative. Every time he speaks, it backfires. Kendrick doesn't even have to speak directly. He lets props, chains, and stage setups do the talking, and it still shakes the industry. And here's the thing, Kendrick didn't even rely on his most recent projects too heavily. He skipped a lot of tracks from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers and even avoided hits like Knee N95. Instead, he pulled from every era, blending classics like Swimming Pools and Humble with GNX tracks and unreleased verses. It showed he wasn't chained to promoting a single album. He was curating a show to showcase his legacy. That's another reason he's seen as untouchable. While some rappers struggle to keep fans engaged after one project, Kendrick has the catalog and creativity to hold down a 3-hour set without ever losing the crowd. And he didn't just play the obvious radio singles, he balanced deep cuts with bangers, proving he respects his hardcore fans as much as the casual ones. That level of care is what makes people call his concerts experiences rather than just performances. The finale of the GNX tour show was pure electricity, the kind of ending that leaves people walking out stunned, arguing about what they just witnessed. Kendrick didn't just wrap things up, he made sure the night ended like a statement carved into stone. Closing the concert with Luther and Gloria alongside SZA gave the whole stadium chills, but before the last note even hit, fans knew they had just seen one of the most iconic tour stops in years. And what made it so wild wasn't just the songs, it was how Kendrick turned his rivalry with Drake into live theater, stitched together with music, skits, visuals, and symbolism. Every moment was designed to remind fans who's really running this game. The courtroom skits clowning Drake's lawsuits, the visual jabs on the screens, the lyric flips on songs like Euphoria. They all work together to make Drake look small without Kendrick ever needing to say his name out loud. That's a masterclass in control. The biggest takeaway from the night wasn't just that Kendrick put on a good show, it was that he proved why he still holds the crown. The culture has been debating for years, who's the greatest in this era? Drake's got the numbers, Kendrick's got the respect. But in moments like this, the numbers don't matter. What matters is who can stand on stage and move a stadium full of people with pure art. Kendrick gave his fans everything. Hits, unreleased songs, remixes, storytelling, even comedy in the form of his skits. He showed range that most rappers can't even dream of. And when you contrast that with Drake canceling shows in Australia, battling lawsuits, and watching UMG dismiss his claims as foolish theatrics, it's clear the momentum has shifted. Kendrick is showing what it looks like to be an artist fully in control, while Drake looks like an artist struggling to keep control of the narrative, and fans noticed. Clips from the tour flooded social media, sparking endless debates. Some were zooming in on Kendrick's X chain, trying to decide if it was a nod to GNX, 6 Temptation, or excellence itself. Others were breaking down his lyric changes line by line, analyzing how he subtly flipped bars to add shade to Drake. And then there were the memes, fans roasting Drake for suing, only to have Kendrick turn the lawsuit into a comedy skit. The internet moved quick, and Kendrick had all the momentum. What makes it even more legendary is that he didn't have to drop a new project to stay relevant. He's still riding the GNX wave, yet somehow it feels brand new because of how he remixed the songs live and added so many fresh layers of performance. That's rare. Most rappers need a fresh album to hold the spotlight, but Kendrick can stretch one project into years of dominance because he keeps reinventing it in ways nobody else dares to. The show also reminded people how much detail Kendrick puts into his artistry. Fans pointed out how the outfits he wore during the concert resembled old school DMX and Cash Money Hot Boys fits. Beanies, camo, rugged looks that tied into the gritty raw vibe of the GNX album. Even the stage itself told a story. The GNX platform in the middle of the PlayStation symbols wasn't just a random choice. It was a callback to his Super Bowl stage, but also a symbol of him being the center of the culture, the missing X that ties it all together. That's the difference between Kendrick and so many others. Every decision is intentional, every detail is layered. People walked out knowing they'd be replaying the footage, catching things they missed the first time. And that's exactly how Kendrick wants it. His shows aren't just for the moment. They're built to live on in conversation, analysis, and debate. But beyond all the shots and symbols, what really stood out is how Kendrick continues to evolve while still honoring his roots. He didn't lean heavy on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and he barely touched To Pimp a Butterfly, yet fans didn't feel cheated. That's because he crafted a set list that blended old bangers with new energy, skipping songs like N95, but still giving people crowd-shaking moments with Humble, Swimming Pools, DNA, and Poetic Justice. And he brought out surprises like mashing Sweet Love with Mad City, proving he can take classics and breathe new life into them. Add such harmonies, the skits, and the unreleased cuts, and you've got a concert that felt both nostalgic and futuristic at the same time. That balance is hard to pull off, but Kendrick did it effortlessly. As the lights dimmed and fans left the stadium, the buzz was undeniable. Kendrick Lamar had just set the bar for what a rap concert should look like in 2025. Drake's name was all over the night, but not because of his own work, only because Kendrick made him the punchline. That's the ultimate power move. Kendrick doesn't need interviews, long rants, or endless social media posts. He lets the music and the stage do the talking. And right now, the stage is saying loud and clear, Kendrick Lamar is on top, and the rest of the rap game is playing catch up.